despite never having been sick before. I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance and found myself tethered to an 4-drip in bed. My husband and my meal looked down on me with scorn, though we were supposed to be a family living under the same roof. What a useless wife. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the divorce papers laid before me. My name is Lydia, and I'm 52 years old. I lost my parents in an accident when I was a child and was raised by my grandmother. I was fortunate enough to attend vocational school and landed my dream job as a preschool teacher, something I had aspired to since childhood. Though I had led a fulfilling life, having passed the age of 30 without even the hint of a romantic relationship, my impatient grandmother introduced me to Jameson, my now husband. As a naive person who had never been in a relationship before, I was captivated by the gap between his gentlemanly appearance and his slightly pushy inner life. While we were gradually getting to know each other, my grandmother's health suddenly took a turn for the worse, and we rushed to register our marriage and hold a ceremony. Seeing me in my bridal gown, my grandmother passed away peacefully, leaving me with a modest inheritance. Subsequently, because it would look as if I lacked providing ability, according to my husband, I became a housewife by his wish, and soon after, we used the inheritance as a down payment for a house in a suburban upscale neighborhood. A well-paying job for my husband, and a beautiful new home. I had longed for a home and had no doubt that I could finally be happy with my family. However, a sad reality soon pressed upon us. Unfortunately, we were unable to have children. By the time we realized the existence of infertility treatments, it was beyond the ideal age for childbirth, and we decided to give up on having children, settling into a relatively happy life just the two of us. But there was someone who wouldn't accept this: my mill. Our relationship was never great to begin with, but the decision to give up on children only intensified her cold treatment towards me every time we visited home. "You can't even have kids, so at least work hard when you come visit. Excuse me." As I was puzzled by her unreasonable demands, she sneered and said, "The wife is supposed to take care of all the household chores. Isn't that nice? Come on, let's rest in the living room." Following my mill, the relatives quickly left the kitchen. They would say things like "thank you," "take care," or "let us know if you need anything," but not a single one offered to help. Of course, they wouldn't. My mother-in-law, who has a strong temper, has a lot to say, and above all, no one likes to work in the kitchen, which is cold in winter and hot in summer. Perhaps due to its rural setting, my husband's family home had a strong tendency toward male superiority. While the men, led by my Phil, drank and made merry, the women were busy with preparations, a division of labor I could understand. But I never expected all these tasks to be dumped on me because we couldn't have children. I can't drink alcohol, and dealing with drunks seemed more trouble than it was worth, so maybe it was easier to just do the kitchen work by myself. Still, I sighed deeply alone in the kitchen. When I appeared in the living room to serve food, although the relatives praised me for taking the initiative to work, the words coming out of my mother-in-law's mouth were a shock to me. When I left, she would say things like, "She's a wife who can do nothing but housework," or "She's not very attentive, so I have to tell her what to do." Whether my husband, Jameson, knew of his mother's words or not, he just happily continued drinking. I wish he would stand up for me a bit. When I whispered to Jameson about his mother's attitude while he was on his way to the bathroom, he replied, "It's normal for a wife to work at her husband's home, and for a husband not to praise his wife too much. You're overthinking it, and wouldn't take me seriously." Yet, if I don't visit my in-laws and show my face, it's not just my Mel who gets upset. Jameson's mood sours as well. After constantly hustling, I often found that only leftovers were available for my meals. Despite the challenging environment at my in-laws, there was one highlight for me: the presence of my niece, Bella. Lacking peers among the relatives, she would escape the men's rowdy gatherings to join me in the kitchen. "Auntie, I don't understand part of my homework. Can you help me?" "Of course, come here." I had tutored during my community college days, so helping Bella with her studies or playing card games while snacking at the kitchen's small dining table was enjoyable. Mimel doted on Bella, her only granddaughter. Though all relatives adored her charm and intelligence, she felt pressured by their high expectations. They're pushing me to aim for Harvard or pursue a political career, and I'm only in elementary school. It's overwhelming. You're right. Your life is your own, after all. As I nodded in agreement, she smiled in relief. I dream of a career helping others, but let's keep that between us. My grandparents can be quite nosy. Saying that, she puts up her little index finger and winks. Such a thought is genuinely endearing. I can't help but imagine what it would be like if we had children. My Mel seemed not to appreciate my close bond with Bella, but she refrained from commenting, likely fearing her granddaughter's disapproval. Bella and I shared a special connection. I managed to get through the hardships of visiting my in-laws because of her. As time passed and Bella grew, she began to assist with the household chores dumped on me at my in-laws. Eventually, her mother also started lending a hand during visits, easing my burden. On a cold day, amidst my morning routine, the phone rang insistently. "What now, so early in the morning?" grumbled Jameson as he answered. Perhaps it was an urgent work call. What? His loud exclamation caught me off guard. "What's wrong?" "It's Dad." "What about him?" Shockingly, my Phil had passed away from a heart attack after going to the cold kitchen for water at night. He was found lifeless by my mill in the morning. He had seemed so healthy just a month ago. Jameson and I rushed to the in-laws, enveloped by a somber atmosphere throughout the wake. Busy catering to the mourners, I noticed Jameson and his mother deep in conversation. I was curious, but there was no time to ask. I thought it'd be best to ask later, and decided to ignore it for now. After the funeral, as we relaxed at home, "There's something I need to discuss, is that okay?" Jameson broached a subject. What's going on?" Noticing my husband's unusual demeanor, I instinctively straightened up. "There's something I need to discuss. I decided we should live with Mom." "What?" I nearly choked on my surprise. "But that's so sudden." "It can't be helped. I'm the eldest son. It's my duty to take care of our aging parent. Plus, it's what Mom wants. Living with that mill is no joke." "When did you decide this?" "I wasn't informed at all." "Why do I need your permission? I bought this house, and we're talking about my own mother. Besides, you're living off my earnings, and you dare to complain." I was speechless. This is what they mean by it. To think he'd enforce such an outdated mindset. "I've been doing my best with the household chores. It was your wish for me to be a housewife. Don't talk to me as if you're on the same level when you haven't earned a penny." I involuntarily shrank from his loud shout. Jameson sighed deeply, glaring at me. "Who pays for your cell phone? Who bought you that funeral outfit? I even cover your makeup expenses. Listen, living together is final. If you don't want to lose your current lifestyle, don't complain. True, my life is supported by my husband, but we were supposed to be a team, with him working outside and me taking care of the home. Without my own family or savings, and jobs not easy to come by, the thought of separating from my husband was terrifying." "Okay, I understand." I had no choice but to accept living with a mill. Since she arrived, it's been hell. Beyond the relative scrutiny, she bullies me more than ever. Criticizing every action from meals, cleaning, to laundry, from dawn till dusk. She claims the sofa in front of the TV, idle is spending her days. Occasionally, she goes out to splurge on shopping with her pension and money from selling her house. "I'm back. Went to the station today and got you your favorite cakes from Springlight Hall." Upon returning, my Mill ignores me and starts talking to Jameson. "Oh, they look delicious." "Huh. Only 2. "Of course. 1 for you and 1 for me." "Lydia, make some tea." Am I a servant? If only my husband were on my side, it might be bearable. Since moving in together, Jameson has been like a child, believing and prioritizing everything his mother say over his spouse. When I told him how selfish my mother-in-law was playing with me, he said, "Don't you feel sorry for your old mother who came alone to a strange land? Be as nice to her as you can." He makes it sound as if it is my fault. Caught between a selfish mill and a husband who follows her every whim, I've felt increasingly isolated. 3 months into living together, after seeing Jameson off in the morning, I suddenly doubled over in pain. The intensity forced me to sit down. I'm sweating profusely. This is bad. "Excuse me, Mill." I mustered the energy to approach her in the living room, watching her morning shows while sipping coffee. "Could you pass me that phone? I need to call Jameson." "What? Get it yourself. Plus, he just left, he won't answer his phone on the train." My mill refused to acknowledge the urgency. "My stomach is in terrible pain. I need to ask him to drive me to the hospital. Complaining about a stomach ache when my son is working hard. I won't allow you to disturb him." Desperate, I reached for the phone and dialed 911. Soon after, an ambulance arrived at our house, its siren blaring loudly. "What, an ambulance? You called it?" Surprised by the unexpected situation, my mill stared in disbelief. If contacting my husband is forbidden, what choice do I have? To make such a big deal out of this, unbelievable. Anger painted her face as she glared at me. Meanwhile, paramedics quickly loaded me onto a stretcher and out of the house. "You're going to be okay now. We're heading to the nearest general hospital." It had been a while since someone spoke to me with such kindness. As I felt a wave of relief, my consciousness began to fade. The next thing I knew, I was lying in a hospital bed. It was already dark outside, and sitting beside me were my mill, elegantly dressed in a kimono, and my husband, still in his suit, frowning deeply. "According to the doctor, it seems I have developed a stomach ulcer." The moment the doctor left after announcing I would need to stay in the hospital for a week, Jameson sighed deeply. "You collapsed right after I went to work, huh? Was he worried about me?" A small flicker of hope lit up in my heart. "But that was a huge mistake. Why didn't you call me back instead of calling an ambulance? Making such a big deal out of it." "What?" The tiny flame of hope in my chest was extinguished in an instant. It felt as if the candle of hope had been snapped off at its base. "You always do this, getting your priorities wrong. That's why you can't manage the household efficiently and end up stressed, bringing such trouble on us." No. 70% of the stress comes from the mill, and 30% is because of you." I was too stunned to speak. As soon as I went silent, my mill, with a sly grin, said, "A housewife's job is to do the housework. But if you're going to be hospitalized for a week and take a break from housework, you are an unfit wife. Get a divorce right away." In her wrinkled hand, she held a green-lined paper. "Yes, that's divorce form." "Exactly. Mom's right." My husband carelessly agreed and began to fill out the form with a smirk. Wait. I panicked. What would become of me if I were abandoned now? I tried to snatch the document from him, but my body wouldn't move as I wanted. After he finished filling it out, I finally managed to grab the paper, and for some reason, my husband laughed heartily as if he found it amusing. "See, she can't live without me." My mill, looking at me clutching the crumpled divorce form, laughed along with my husband, getting all panicked. How pathetic. In front of my dazed self, my husband placed my favorite purse and an envelope. "Brought some essentials for your hospital stay. We're both busy, so get anything else you need on your own. This should be enough." Inside the envelope was money that seemed to be for my hospital expenses. "Oh, thank you. You used our savings, huh?" "What? As if I'd waste it like that." "What?" Hope extinguished once again. "I canceled your insurance. You've been enrolled for a long time, so the cancellation refund was quite a bit. Don't worry about using what's in the envelope. Half of it will go towards our living expenses." My husband and I had savings, yet he canceled my insurance without asking, and planned to use half for living expenses. Are they planning a vacation while I'm hospitalized? It became clear to me. My husband and Mill didn't care about me at all. I was both sad and furious. Looking down, the divorce form caught my eye. "The divorce is just a joke. Relax." Noticing my stunned look, my husband shrugged off with a smirk. "Signing it and even stamping it, and it's a joke." I couldn't help but glare at them, and both my Mill and Jameson were still snickering. Seeing that, something inside me snapped. Why am I even trying to be a family with these people? That envelope doesn't include fare for the trip back. "Let me know when you're discharged." Watching the two of them leave, I quietly crushed the divorce papers in my hand. In a daze, I opened my bag. Inside were just my wallet, pen, and a few added towels, exactly as expected since I doubted they knew where my pajamas and underwear were. I'd need to buy almost everything anew. I sighed. Just then the curtain around my hospital bed rustled softly. A nurse. As I looked up, I gasped in surprise. No way. That niece of mine, Bella, whom I loved so much, was right in front of me as a fine nurse. Our unexpected reunion was filled with joy as we held hands. As I shared my story, Bella became as angry as if it had happened to her. I hadn't a lie here. I was so moved, I almost cried. Then, I saw my chance. I couldn't let those two look down on me without getting them back. Bella and I began to plan our strategy. A week later, freed from the stress of dealing with Jameson and my mill, I was well enough to be discharged tomorrow. It was when I was on the phone in the empty hospital room. Got the news you're being discharged, so I came over. Jameson announced abruptly as he and my mill barged in. Jameson holding a bag from his favorite confectionery shop. Can't skip visiting the wife in the hospital. Looks bad not to show up at least once. I took my phone away from my ear, placed its screen down on the table, and nodded slightly while sitting on the bed. Thank you for coming. My mill and Jameson took chairs near the bed. You've had enough rest. Expect you to start working hard again from tomorrow. What a welcome. The bag predictably contained 2 cakes. While they claim it's a visit to cheer me up, there's nothing here for me. Go buy some tea from the shop downstairs. You can at least manage that, right? Your husband took his precious time off to come here. I don't have any money left. I spent quite a bit on pajamas and underwear. When I shook my head, my mill clicked her tongue in clear disapproval. Can't even buy a cup of tea after causing all this trouble with your hospitalization. Such a lazy bum. Who's the lazy one, I wonder? At that moment, the curtain around the bed was drawn back sharply, and a smiling female nurse appeared. Enjoy bullying your DIL at the hospital, Grandma. Then, my mill's face turned pale as she stuttered in shock. Of course it would be. With her beloved granddaughter standing before her as a nurse. This isn't Bella's hospital. Why are you here? I just transferred to this hospital. I was surprised, too. When I was called for help and came to this ward, I found that my aunt had been brought in with a stomach ulcer. She doesn't drink or smoke. I was skeptical about her just based on her story, but I was convinced after hearing the conversation earlier. Bella's icy stare and words made my mill tremble. It's not like that, Bella. You're misunderstanding. Excuses won't help you now. As I spoke up, my mill became furiously angry. You shut up. No need for me to stay quiet, though. Everything's been heard anyway. Then, I lifted my smartphone to show the screen to my mill, revealing a call in progress with my SIL's name. What a sneaky move. As my husband started to scold me, his sister's angry voice blasted from the phone on speaker mode. You knew your wife was hospitalized and that's your attitude. Enough is enough. Even Jameson shrunk under the scolding of his sister, known for her assertiveness. My Scylla niece, unlike Jameson and my mill, seemed to be from a different breed, full of righteousness. Eavesdropping on the conversation with Jameson and my mill was a plan proposed by my Syl. Looking at the diminished figures of Jameson and my mill, I reached out to my Syl once more. Thank you, Syl. Hanging up the phone and staring at Jameson, who was slouched in defeat. This past week wasn't just about lying in bed and resting. You signed the divorce papers a week ago, right? I decided to accept them. Let's get a divorce. What? Jameson's jaw dropped, looking at me in disbelief. Understandably. He probably never imagined a housewife without a job or a home would willingly give up her current life. I couldn't help but laugh at his dumbfounded expression. Annoyed by my laughter, Jameson spluttered, without a job or a home, what are you planning to do? Calmly, I responded, I'll work at this hospital. Bella's supervisor, who happens to live nearby, got everything arranged smoothly after I explained my situation. I never expected to benefit from neighborhood connections like this. At my words, Jameson twisted his lips. You're neither a doctor nor a nurse. How could you possibly work at a hospital? That's when Bella smiled gently, enlightening him. Uncle, you really don't know anything. In a general hospital, there are various jobs besides doctors and nurses, and many people work in them. What? Ignoring Jameson's stupefied look, Bella winked at me. A signal we had shared back when I taught her studies or played card games at my in-laws. I'd been offered a job as a nursery attendant in a hospital-based nursery for sick children. They have dorms and a place to live, no problem, I declared confidently. My Mill, wordless, put her hand on Jameson's shoulder and glared at me, thrusting her wrinkled hand forward. Don't joke with me. If you're not going to be a wife, then return the hospital fees in full. No, I'll be keeping that. And by the way, I'll be sending you a bill for the divorce settlement later, okay? What? Are you familiar with the division of assets? During a divorce, I can claim half of the assets we accumulated together. What are you talking about? My Mill trembles with fear. Jameson's face a picture of shock, but I simply smiled warmly at him. Besides, since you and your mother were the cause of my hospitalization due to the stress you caused, I would like to charge you alimony as well. I also have witnesses here. Bella's icy gaze was enough to make my Mill shake. Unable to withstand the situation they never anticipated, my Mill and Jameson fled the room. Left behind were 2 pieces of cakes. Bella, you like sweets, right? It'd be a shame to throw these away. Let's eat them. Offering the bag to her, she nodded with the same bright smile she had as a child. The next day, I was discharged and submitted the divorce papers. Later, under the condition of not pursuing the compensation claim, I received a sizable amount from the division of assets. I found out that, perhaps it was spread by Bella's supervisor, Jameson and my Mill were rumored in the neighborhood as the villains who sent their wife to the hospital. As I adjusted to my new life, Bella, living in the same dormitory, would share updates about those two. Apparently, they lived together for a while, but my elderly former Mill couldn't keep up with her son's demands, leading to constant arguments. Attempting to move in with her daughter, my Mill was promptly refused, as she had always disliked her own mother. This became well known among relatives, leading to their estrangement. The biannual family gatherings naturally fizzled out. As for me, I was finding fulfillment in my new job, struggling but enjoying every moment. The affection from the children, reaching out with their tiny hands, was incredibly precious to me. Bella and I, as colleagues and friends, would sometimes go out for tea together. Though I had no family, I had a dear friend like a daughter, and children who were like grandchildren to me. I am content with this. During nap time in the child care room, I gently patted a little girl's back, listening to her peaceful breathing.